Ogden Canyon is probably the most used, I would say. It like kind of pops you right out here, right into central Ogden. And we're gonna give you all the pros and cons of Ogden Canyon today. Today, we're exploring Ogden Canyon. If you're gonna live in Eden, Huntsville, or Liberty, you really only have 3 points of access. You got the North Ogden Divide, in the middle you have Ogden Canyon, and then you have Trappers going up and over into Mountain Green. Ogden Canyon is probably the most used, I would say. It like kind of pops you right out here, right into central Ogden, and we're gonna give you all the pros and cons of Ogden Canyon today. So let's check it out. So you wouldn't think, but Ogden Canyon actually has a lot of recreational activities. You have multiple trail systems within Ogden Canyon. You have Wheeler Creek up at the top. That kind of like webs out into Snowbasin and that whole area up there. You also have fishing in the Ogden River. People really like that. And I've even seen people kayak down this when the rapids get going really, really heavy. So there's actually quite a lot to do here. So also in Ogden Canyon, you have the Ogden Marathon, and that's kind of a big deal within Weber County. It's a very well-attended marathon race, and they start up by Causey Reservoir in Huntsville, and you run all the way down through Huntsville into Eden, kind of by Eden Park, wrap around the reservoir, and come down Ogden Canyon. And it's really the one time a year that they just shut down the canyon for half a day for people to run it. And it's so pretty. I've done it a few times, and it's awesome. It's a good race to run. You get beautiful scenery, and it's mostly downhill, so that's awesome. Let's talk about the commercial businesses and stuff that are within Ogden Canyon. You have the Alaskan Inn. That's like kind of like an anniversary inn there. They got a number of cabins and stuff like that, and I think they have a restaurant there. You have Oaks, which they just recently reopened, a good restaurant up at the top of the canyon towards the valley side, and that's a really good restaurant. Restaurants have always struggled kind of in here. There was one that just got put up for sale. I can't remember the name of it, but there's a few like little restaurants. We are walking over to the waterfall. The waterfall is awesome. They don't always have it turned on. It comes down from Pineview Reservoir, and they ran the pipe high enough that they create this man-made waterfall. And when it's really raging, it's so pretty coming down the canyon and seeing that waterfall. It's awesome. Your biggest thing to be worried about in the canyon, it's pretty windy. There's not a lot of elevation, except when you get out up towards the reservoir. There's a little bit of a hill there, but it's just kind of windy, narrow. It's heavily trafficked, and there can be some accidents, which they do have to shut it down. They keep up on the snow removal like really well because this is so heavily trafficked. But the biggest risk is you're just like on a narrow road, and it's pretty windy, and there's no barricades between the two traffic lanes. And so that's a challenge. I don't get stuck in the canyon that much. I feel like overall it's good, but that's your biggest risk. And then the second biggest risk is just rock fall. Sometimes after like a heavy rain or snowstorm, you will get rocks that will come down and onto the road. Up at the top, around the spillway, they did a huge project end of last year where they actually netted the whole hillside to keep it from like rocks from coming down and hitting cars. So they've tried to mitigate like the areas that are most prone for rocks coming down, and they've done a good job of that. Look, we got some fishermen right down here. So right about where they are is where that waterfall comes down, and we'll see if we can get some shots of you when it's on, because it is awesome. We're gonna give you a hyperlapse of what the canyon road looks like, feels like when you're driving into the car. Personally, I don't think it's that bad, but there's some people that just don't like the windy roads, and we'll let you guys decide for yourself. All right, guys, hopefully that gives you a good idea of what the canyon is, how it feels to drive it. My honest take, it's not that bad. I think people make it a bigger deal than it is. And if you ever run into issues, you always have to remember there's 3 ways in and out of the valley. You have trappers and the North Ogden Divide. And honestly, if there ever is anything like a closure in there, it's typically not that long. They get it picked up and cleaned up pretty fast. So just got to remember to be safe out there and watch for falling rocks. Thanks for watching, guys. Till next time.